mean, as a cybersecurity expert, you work with private businesses all the time. What would you say a bad cybersecurity system looks like? And then, of course, I'll ask you about a good one.
Well, a bad cybersecurity system is a system that's in place begrudgingly, and it typically takes the form of a checklist. It's like, oh, geez, the regulators are making me do a cybersecurity thing, or my vendor or my client is making me do a cybersecurity thing. So I'm going to have 10 check boxes. I'm going to check them off, and that'll be that. That's not how cybersecurity works. Cybersecurity is a living program. You have to look at your assets. You have to look at the assets. You have to look at the threats. You have to look at the environment and then protect accordingly. And you have to keep evaluating this all the time. It's not a checklist. So those are the worst kind of cybersecurity programs, when they are just like some sort of a checklist with people checking it off and not taking it seriously. They are paying lip service to cybersecurity. That's like paying lip service to your health. Right. Or having a car and getting inside the car, and instead of buckling your safety belt, you sit on it and you just put the clip in so that the thing doesn't go beep, beep, beep the minute you start moving the car. It's like, good job there, genius.
Yes. That's unfortunately that's very that's true of how a lot of people would approach it. Having a good cybersecurity system, I would say, the way you lay it out in the book is excellent. People should really go out and get this if they're interested, the cybersecurity program development for business, because you talk about the information that a company needs to gather, the documentation, what's important to the company, how to conduct those risk assessments, the threat assessments, and then basically how to map out the processes and the controls to come up with a good incident response plan. And that is an excellent way to approach it, basically A to Z.
Right, that's right. Thank you. That was the goal of the book. The goal of the book was to give you all the tools to understand enough for you to have a meaningful conversation with an expert, so that you're not lost.
Okay,
so you can complete the handshake.
I'm not an IT guy like Pete. I pretend to be one, just kidding. I have a lot of experts around me. I surround myself with the right people. Now, tell me specifically enough what I should be doing as a business with like a couple tips I can utilize today regarding cybersecurity in my business.
Well, first of all, the first thing that you need to do is identify what are the assets that you want to be protecting. What are you protecting? How much is it worth it to you? That is the very first thing that you need to establish. What am I protecting? How much is it worth it to me? You need to get that down on paper, no matter what size business you are. And you work this iteratively. If you're a small business, then you yourself can probably come up with a list. If you are a huge business, then you work business unit by business unit, department by department. The next thing you need to figure out is like, who's out to get me? What are the threats? Pragmatically speaking, what are the threats? Who is going to be out to get me? Then you work down the list. What are the vulnerabilities of the systems that I'm using? And those are known to a very large extent. Those are known, unless you're dealing with zero day. They're known. And after you have all of these things down, then you say, okay, I am protecting assets worth $1 million. I am going to deploy controls that are going to cost me X amount of money. That X amount of money can never be over $1 million, because then you're spending more money protecting the assets than they're worth. So you have to deploy controls in a business pragmatic way. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to accept some risk. You definitely are going to have to accept some risk. We all do. Every single day that we cross the street, we accept some risk. You as a business owner, you're also going to be accepting some risk. And then you deploy these controls. You've done so in a business pragmatic way. And the next thing you're saying, okay, how do I recover? And you get your team together. And by the way, by team, I don't mean just the IT people or the cybersecurity people. I mean your team, your executive team, your business people, your partners. You sit them all around the table and say, listen, if something happens, what do we do? Rehearse it. Who is going to communicate to our clients? Who is going to communicate to the bank? Who is going to communicate to the employees? What happens if we have no access to data? How long can we afford to not have access to data? How long at what point in time do we need to recover our data? And so on and so forth. You go through that incident response planning exercise, which is tied with your disaster recovery and business continuity plan. And now you can sleep easier. You have it now. You got it.
And I have to point out something, Chris, that you mentioned, and a lot of people may think that this is exaggerating, or they may think that it's accurate. And I can attest to it being accurate. I'm sure you can too. And that is that people are your greatest asset to your business, but they're also your greatest liability.
That's absolutely right. Exactly right. The most effective cybersecurity control is people. And so you need to focus on your people. You need to focus on educating your people and providing cybersecurity awareness training. And yeah, they are your best control. They are more than likely your best assets. And very frequently, they can be your most serious problem. Insider breaches are on the increase, and they can be for many reasons, starting from stupidity all the way down to criminal intent and criminal negligence sometimes. So you need to be take a very close look to your insider threat problems.
Yeah, and how to lock down your data. I mean, if somebody gets into some financial problems and a
Right.
competitor reaches out to them
Right.
and says, hey, we'll pay you, $50,000 if you download your company's database, and give it to us. Well, if you don't have that USB port locked down, if you don't have that data secured somehow where you've got various levels of access to that data, so only certain people get certain levels of access, these are all part and parcel of a comprehensive cybersecurity plan.
That's exactly right. Segregation of duties becomes very, very important. Only access what you need to know in order for you to do your job and nothing else. And pay close attention to employee behavior. Very close attention. A person may have very legitimate and desperate reasons for needing the money. They could have people that are sick and they're getting broke by paying their health care, or they themselves have a gambling problem, or a drug problem, or a nasty divorce. Or they could be disgruntled employees. They may feel that you have shorted them for some reason, and they needed to exact revenge. So there's many reasons why people go south on you.
So basically, a breach can happen anyway. It's not just from a hacker, but somebody who accesses the information. You got to make sure you have the right IT solutions, that only certain people have certain administrative access and other people don't. And they can't break through that administration to get higher access. That's one.
Neil, I think you are a cybersecurity person.
He's learning rapidly.
Yes, you are. That is exactly right, Neil. A threat is a threat is a threat. It could be an insider threat. It could be a nation state. It could be a cyber criminal. It could be a hacktivist. It could be God knows what. But a threat is a threat and a threat. And if it's an insider threat, those are the most insidious of them all. You remember the movie, the phone call is coming from inside the house.